Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to share with you my top 10 favorite games from AEG, otherwise known as Alderac Entertainment Group. Now, it has been a little over a year since I last did this. And back then I had played over 12 games, and since then I've played quite a few games that are from AEG since then. So much so that my list has changed pretty big time. There's only a few games in here that are still in my top 10 that were from the previous list from last year. So I thought this would be a good time to share my top 10. Now there's still a few games out there that I own that I still haven't played yet. So if you don't see one of your favorite games from AEG, it might mean I haven't played it yet. So don't fret. Maybe I'll play it someday. So anyways, these are my favorite games, obviously. And I might take a minute or two extra to maybe take out a component or something like that to make this maybe a little bit more enjoyable if possible. I've already got a couple of components out for the first couple of games I'm going to share with you. So we'll see how long this takes. Anyways, I'm going to get started now. So my number 10, okay? My 10th most favorite game from AEG is new to the list, okay? Last year, my number 10 was a game called Trains, which is no longer on the list as far as it's not in my top 10 anymore. Still a good game, mind you. It's just not in my top 10. And so my number 10 is War Chest. Now in War Chest is a bag building game, okay? So you have these coins, and I'll show you some of the coins. You have these coins that you'll be putting into a bag. And the cool thing is this is a really tactical game. But you have all these coins, and each coin is a type of unit. Now, there are several different types of units in this game. And I don't have the expansions, so there's more in those expansions. But when you play this game, each player is going to have their own units that are unique to them. That means if I have the scout, my opponent isn't going to have the scout, okay? If I have the lancer, my opponent isn't going to have the lancer. Each of us are going to have units that are special and unique, okay? Now, a lot of the units can only move like maybe one space on the board at a time, but some units have the ability to move 2 spaces. Usually, another thing about this game is usually you can't move and attack at the same time. So if you decide to move your coin closer to your enemy, like in chess, for instance, when you move a piece closer to the enemy, your opponent can come and take your piece away in chess, right? If it's within range, right? Depending on the rules of chess. That's exactly the same with War Chest here, okay? Because you can move your coin closer to your opponent in preparation to attack them. But if they get to attack you first, which is possible, it's not 100% possible because there are rules that could potentially stop that from happening because this is a bag building game. So in order to move a unit forward, as in a coin, you have to have another coin in reserve that's exactly the same as that coin, meaning they're both the same unit. And you have to utilize that coin basically for the turn to allow that unit to basically attack and to move and all that jazz. So, that's why you may not always get attacked right away. You might move your coin thinking, if I do this, he might attack me. But if he doesn't have that coin in his bag or in his hand, he won't be able to attack you with the coin that's in front of him if he doesn't have that exact coin, even though he has it on the field. And so they're like, whew. But then do you have the coin in reserve for your next turn that will allow you to attack your opponent? That's the thing. You just don't know, because it is a bag building game and you're taking out coins out of the bag and you're not sure exactly which one you're going to get unless it's the last coin in your bag. And just like in normal bag building games, when your bag becomes empty, your discard pile goes into your bag and you shuffle it, obviously, in your bag, just like in any other bag building game. So definitely a very interesting game for sure, very tactical for sure. And let me just share with you the coins. As you can see, they're each unique and different. They have different, basically icons on them. There's different pictures, obviously. This is like, for instance, one of my favorites, the Scout. So if I was the player with the Scout, my opponent wouldn't have the Scout. Now, this is usually a 2-player game, but there are rules where you can team up with another player and go against another team of 2. So it's 2 to 4. 2 to 4. No 3s, no 1s, but 2 to 4. Still, I haven't got a chance to try it on a team game yet, but it might be interesting to try that. But yeah, different coins, different units. The Lancer is, which one's the Lancer? I can't tell from here. I think the Lancer is this one. Another one of my favorites, I think this is the Lancer. And the coins are very high quality, very thick, very strong, very cool, very heavy, metalish, definitely. So, but yeah, I just really love War Chest. That's why it's my number 10. Okay, cool. All right, let me just put this away real quick. So give me a minute. I just want to make sure I have it on right. We put it back in the box. Give me just a minute to do that. Because I don't have a lot of space on this table, so I'm gonna run out of room if I don't put stuff back right away. Okay. And, the box might be oddly shaped, but it's got a nice little magnet. So that's cool. Another reason why it's a cool game. It's a high quality game, for sure. So let me just put this over here. Should be out of my way for a while. Okay, so my number 9. Okay, so my number 9, last year it was Cubitos. That was my number 9. It's not Cubitos anymore. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's no longer on my list. You'll just have to wait and see. So my number 9 currently is Scorpio Freighter. Now, in Scorpio Freighter, the object of the game is to collect goods by way of taking an action that lets you collect goods, and then using those goods to complete contracts. Now, the contracts give you points, and that's how you want to, that's how you win. You'll get to have whoever has the most points wins, right? So completing a lot of contracts and maybe a few side deals, which are easier to complete but only give you a couple of points, would be a good way to get a lot of points in this game, in Scorpio Freighter here. Now, you only start with 2 different types of goods, okay? You start with green cubes, which are basically, I guess, food, and you start with orange cubes, which are basically credits, okay? And you only start with you only start with a couple of them. And those couple, and then since it's only 2, doesn't really allow you to complete any contracts. So what are you gonna do? Well, you have these storage bays. Let me get one out. Every player is gonna have their own basically ship and crew that's unique to them. The crew members, they're not necessarily functional as far as like, if you get this particular ship and this particular crew, you're gonna have a special ability or an advantage over the other players or something like that. That's not really the case. It's just for aesthetic reasons, really, to have different looking crew members, and they're not all human-like. There's some alien looking ones, and there's one that looks like a bird and stuff like that. So cool, for aesthetic reasons, for sure. But yeah, everyone's gonna get one of these, and there's gonna be like tiles that will go onto this indented player board here, okay? And you'll start with like 3 of them. One of them is an ability, and the other 2 are storage bays, basically, for the 2 goods you can have. Because you see, you can only store goods, a certain type of good, in a particular type of storage facility that you can put into your storage bay here, into your ship. And since you only have 2, and they can only have the orange credits and the green food, that means the other 2 cubes that are in the game, the other 2 goods that are in the game, you're gonna have to obviously get. You're gonna have to get the tiles for them, and then obviously you're gonna have to take actions that allow you to get more goods of that kind to fill up, so that way you can complete your contracts. The other 2 types of goods are pink cubes, which are basically medicine, and gray cubes, which are basically data chips. So those are the 4 different types of goods. So that's one of the things that you're gonna be doing. That's the main thing you're gonna wanna do, obviously, is, fill this storage bay up with storage boxes that can hold various different types of goods. And there's even some tiles that you can put on this player board that give you special abilities. So you can even get yourself some special abilities that are only for you. You have to, of course, purchase them and stuff, but still you can get special abilities and things like that. So that's cool. But the coolest thing about this game is sort of interactive, for sure. There's some interaction going on. So what you have here is you have this this mothership. Okay, there's 3 of them because there's 3 planets in this game. Okay, you have this mothership, and you have 3 planets, and there's various actions that revolve around each of the 3 planets. Your crew members will help you move this mothership to allow you to take an action. You can move, if you use 1 crew member, you can move it 1 space. If you use 2 crew members, you can move it 2 spaces, okay? And there's different types of actions on each of the spaces that surround the planet. So you may not necessarily move the same mothership on the same planet all the time, because each of the 3 planets have a special action that's unique to them. So you're gonna be moving the mothership for various planets. But eventually, this mothership is going to make 1 full rotation around a planet. When that happens, a cube, which is one of your goods potentially, will go into this mothership. And if you're playing a 2-player game, it will be 4 cubes that go into this mothership. And when 4 cubes are on a mothership, meaning the mothership made 4 rotations, then guess what? It's basically game over. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen. Now, with that said, if you're the person that moved the mothership to a spot that made the full rotation, or even past the rotation, if you're the player that took the action that caused the mothership to pass it, you lose a good from your storage bay. And that could be dangerous. That could set you back a couple of turns and be like, oh, I have everything I need for a contract. Let's move it up so I can complete this contract. Oh no, I just lost the good because it went on this mothership, and that was the 1 more good I needed to complete the contract. So like, so yeah, it can set you back. And so while there are certain actions you want to take, you might be somewhat hesitant in taking them because you don't want to lose that good. So then maybe you'll focus on one of the other planets and move the mothership over there on one of the other planets. But eventually, at some point, all of the motherships will be at a point where it's like, well, you have to take an action. And if you and each of the motherships on all of the 3 planets, if they're moved even 1 space, will cause you to lose a good. So there's that. So it will happen to you eventually, but you can kind of mitigate when that's going to happen to you, or depending on how many people are playing the game, it might not happen to you at all because all of your opponents will end up, yeah, that's right. You're definitely going to want your opponents to lose the goods, not you. But there's other ways to do it too. So if you're able to, for instance, complete a contract before a full rotation, and you're out of goods, there's no goods in your storage bay at all, and then you move the mothership to a full rotation, then you don't lose a good because you don't have one, and you can still take the action. Awesome, right? And then of course you'll just take a cube from the general supply to put on the mothership because it still needs a cube to indicate that the game is getting closer to being done. But yeah, that's what this is for. So it's a pretty cool mechanism. I really enjoy Scorpio Freighter. Still haven't really gotten to enjoy this with friends yet, but hopefully someday soon. But that's why it's my number 9, Scorpio Freighter. It's a fun little one for sure. Definitely has a lot of choices. Okay, so let me put this away. Okay, so the next game on my list. What's the next game on my list? Hold on. I just want to make sure. Oh, okay, yeah. And I just want to make sure. Okay, here it is. So the next game on my list. Last year it was Space Base. Space Base is no longer in my top 10, sadly. It's still a really good game, but I haven't been able to play it as much, and maybe if I play it more, it will go up again. Who knows? Anyways, so my number 8 is Shake That City. Now, I've only gotten to play this once with a friend, this year, in fact. And it's new to the list, wasn't on the list last year. Scorpio Freighter was on the list last year. this game is pretty fun. It's sort of like a puzzle, if you ask me. You have a board. You want to try to fill it in with as many different buildings as you can. And they score points based on a variety of different things. Some buildings will only score you points if they're in a proximity or nearby another type of building. Very similar to the next game, to another game that's on my list. Higher up. Similar to that. But you're kind of not able to just simply choose what buildings you want. There's a cool little mechanism, definitely some good eye candy, of this box that has all these cubes in it of various colors, okay? And each of the colors represent a type of building or road. And you shake that box, and then you kind of push it together, and almost every single time the cubes, there's like 9 cubes that just come out of the box, and they're just like right on the table. It looks beautiful, okay? And they're going to be in a particular format of that 9x9, that 3x3 grid, okay? So when you place out, you're going to first choose a color you want to do. So let's say there's 3 red cubes. You're going to take the 3 corresponding buildings, and you're going to place it precisely as you see it onto your player board, regardless of what side of the table you're sitting on, okay? You're going to see it exactly how it is. And then your opponents, they don't actually get to choose the same color as you. So they have to choose another color. They can all choose the same color. They just can't choose the same color as you. Now, in the beginning of the game, it definitely seems like it's a good idea to go for the one that has the most of a particular color, for sure, if you can. There's 3 red. Awesome. But at the end of the game, when you have less space, then you're going to be wanting to go for the one that's only got maybe 1 color on it, or 2 colors on it at most, you know? Because if you can't place it on your board because there's no place to put those cubes in that exact order because it would cover up something already built, then obviously you wouldn't be able to take that color anyway. But the cool thing is, at the end of the game, during the last couple of rounds, your opponents can take the same color as you. So there's that option, because obviously at that point in the game, it gets harder and harder to place out tiles and obviously try to score points, right? And that's the general idea of why they did it for the last 2 rounds. But basically, that's kind of the game. It's pretty fun and enjoyable. Obviously, the cube box is, just so cool. And so that is why Shake That City is my number 8. All right, let's move on. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, so number 6. Let me just look. Okay. My number 6 is... Oh, no, sorry. My number 7 is next. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself. Okay, so my number 7, last year it was Istanbul, which is no longer on the list. Okay. This one was on the list last year and has just gone down a little bit, but it's still in my top 10. And that is the Guild of Merchant Explorers. Man, this is like a flip and write game. It really is. The only difference is there's no pens involved. What you're going to do is, it's also similar to another game I really like called Trails of Tucana. And what you're going to do is, you're basically going to have flip over these terrain cards, and then everybody's going to get to put down cubes on that type of terrain. Now, in the beginning of the game, you have a city in the middle, and what you place down has to be obviously adjacent to your city. But there's all the different terrain types are adjacent to that city. So it doesn't matter what terrain type shows up. You'll be able to put something down for sure. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try to complete regions as soon as you possibly can, especially around the city. You might be tempted to try to reach out to the farther reaches of your player board, where all the best stuff is, which is on the outer edges of the player board. You might want to be tempted to do that as soon as possible. But you also want to complete regions, because you see, when a round is over, pretty much all of your progress is erased and you have to start over. So that means the cubes will go away and you'll have to start out all over again and place out more cubes. So you want to complete a region, because when you complete a region, you get to place out a village. Okay, a village token that basically tells you that you completed that region and you're ready to score for it, because you're going to score points for completing a region, okay? But when the round is over, you can either start placing out, more cubes adjacent to your city or next to your village. So that's how you're going to get around. While the around basically erases all your hard work, if you've got villages here and there, you'll be able to place out and spread out even farther than you could ever imagine. And as the game goes on, there's going to be more terrain cards that will help you. You each will get abilities and things that you can, select out of a couple of choices and, obviously allow you to place out more cubes. And so in the beginning of the game, it seems like you're not doing much. You're not getting a lot done. But about halfway through the game, you realize, wow, I'm getting so much done. I've got cubes on this side of the planet, on this side of the map, and cubes over here, and I've got villages over here and villages over there, and I went to that ruins, and I went to that tower, and I'm doing all this awesome stuff. So it may seem a little boring at first, but as you progress through the game, it's just like, wow, look at all this stuff I get to do. So that's why this one is my number 7, the Guild of Merchant Explorers. So fun, so easy to teach. Definitely easy to teach. Very fun and simple, not too hard of a game. Anyways, so that's my number 7. Cool game. Okay. All right, let me just double check. Okay, so last year, my number 6 was a game called Wormholes. It is no longer on my list of my top 10. It's a good game, but it's not on my list of top 10. It's obviously dropped down. My number 6 is Tiny Towns. Tiny Towns has some similar ideas to the Guild of, not the Guild of Merchant Explorers, sorry. It's similar to Shake That City because in scoring, because you're going to be building buildings into your little player board, if you will. And your buildings will score you points. Some of them will just score you points just for simply building them. Others will give you points based on how many you have of them. Others will give you points based on the different types of buildings that surround them, kind of like in Shake That City. But the way things happen are different. So every single round, there'll be a master builder. Every person's going to be a master builder at some point, several times in the course of the game. But they're going to basically choose a cube resource. Each of these buildings require cube resources to build them in a particular Tetris-like layout. And they have to do it just so in order to build the building and put it onto their player board so they can start scoring points for the end of the game and stuff. But they're going to obviously choose a resource that helps them build a particular building that they want to build. Now, everybody else has to take the same resource that round, whether that resource helps them or not, whether it helps them build a building that they were working on or forces them to work on another building. Over time, that little player board is going to get filled up. You're going to have lots of cubes and spots, and it's going to be really tight to try to build your buildings. At some point, you might not be able to build any more buildings at all. What's the word? There's animal folk involved in this game. So that's another reason why I like this one more than Shake That City. Because there's some animal folk on some of the cards. If you get one of the expansions adds animals, so that's nice to the game. Little animal meeples, so that's cool. But anyways, that's Tiny Towns, basically. But at some point, you're going to be the master builder too. You're going to get to, place out your resource that you want to place out to help you build a particular building. But yeah, that's why I love this game so much. So much interaction in this game, Tiny Towns. And that's why Tiny Towns is my number 6. All right, cool. So number 5 is a small game. Last year, it was Scorpio Freighter at number 5. So it went down, obviously. It's still in my top 10, obviously. So my number 5 is Point Salad. Man, this is new to my list. This wasn't on my list last year. Obviously, it's a small family game. It's easy to teach, easy to learn. Anybody can win this game. Super fun. It's a set collection game. You're going to want to collect, various vegetables. You're going to acquire point salad cards that will give you points based on certain vegetables you're collecting. Obviously, you're going to pick one that's going to give you points based on something you might have already. Or you might even pick a point salad card to begin with in the beginning of the game before you start picking some vegetables. Some point salad cards will give you points based on something you have, but will give you minus points based on something else you have. So you're going to want to be careful with what vegetables you take, if at all possible. And because you can play a 6-player game of this, because you can play so many players, you might be trying to get particular vegetable. Like maybe you're trying to get all the carrots, right? Or all the peppers. But there might be a time when you can't get those vegetables because they only show up on your opponent's turns, and your opponents are also taking them. So it's very tight-knit, for sure. But like I said, anyone can win this game. Anybody can win, anybody can lose. It doesn't matter how good you are at this game, you can lose to someone who's never played it before, for sure. But super fun and enjoyable, short little game. Definitely a fun one, for sure. And that's why Point Salad is my number 5. Okay. All right, so my number 4 is called Deep Dive. Now, it used to be Tiny Towns. So obviously Tiny Towns has gone down just a little bit. Still in my top 10, obviously. So, man, I love this game so much, Deep Dive. It's a push your luck game, okay? And the object of the game is you want to collect fish because they give you victory points. Now, the reason why it's a push your luck game is you have these 5 depths, okay? And each depth has tons of tiles. And you'll first move into the first depth and flip over a tile. Now, if it's a predator, you lose your turn. Ouch. Well, that rots. However, on your next turn, if you have a penguin sitting in a depth level, you can skip that depth level. So, hey, I had a failed turn last time, right? But hey, I've got this penguin that's on my side that's taking care of a predator, so I can just skip that level and go to level 2, basically. And flip over a tile there, and hopefully I'll have better luck, perhaps. But as you go down further in the depths, the more predators there are. So yeah, there's that. But that's where all the fish are too. All the really good fish that give you the most points are the farthest you can go. And there's ways of getting down there. Obviously, having a couple of penguins dealing with some predators, you can skip a couple of depths, perhaps, right? You can also acquire these pebbles. And basically you skip your turn if you take a pebble. But then on your next turn you can take that pebble, basically consume it, and go all the way down to depth level 5, which is where the squid are, which is the ones that will give you the most points. So definitely a push your luck game. Now, while you might be tempted to do that all the time, going down to the depths and pushing your luck with the squid and the great white sharks that are down there, while you might want to do that a lot, you're also going to be acquiring 3 different colors, okay? Pink, yellow, or pink or red or something like that. Pink, orange, green. 3 different colors, okay? And the thing is, you're gonna try to complete a row of fish because you can't have the same color in the same row. So if you have 2 greens, then you have a column of greens, not a row of greens, a column. And you can only score the full points that you would normally score if you have one of each colored type of fish in a row. So you're going to try to complete rows of fish. But at some point you might have a column, or you might have a fish on its own in a row. When that happens, you only score about half of the points you would normally get. So if you had a green squid in row 3 and it was by itself and it was worth 9 points, you'd get like 4 points, which isn't a lot of points, right? So that's why you want to try to focus on trying to get all of the colors. And so you might be tempted to obviously go for the more expensive fish, but it's prudent to get all of the different colored fish for sure. And that means you might be taking some fish from the first level. However, when you flip over a tile, if it's not a predator, you have the option to go down to the next level. So on the first level, if you flip over a food, fish or something, right? You have the option to move on to the next depth to get something potentially better. And then that thing will stay face up. Then later, another player can take a face up tile that's already face up. They can just take it for free, as long as they can, move into that depth level, obviously. So it's just a lot of fun. This is definitely a really fun, simple little game. Anybody can learn this game. Anybody can win this game because it's just push your luck. So, it's really up to just luck, really. So anybody can technically win this game. So super fun game, super easy to teach, and that's why Deep Dive is my number 4. Fourth favorite game, Deep Dive. Okay, so my number 3 last year was the Guild of Merchant Explorers, which has obviously gone down a bit, but still in my top 10, obviously. This year, Cubitos is my number 3. Cubitos was originally my number 9. Now it's my number 3. Why is that? Well, one reason is I have played this about a dozen times last year. A dozen times, and I've already played it once this year. Everyone who I've taught this game to has loved it. Everyone, which is amazing, because usually there's always somebody that hates something that I bring to the table. You know, usually that's how it is, or maybe it's just too complex or something like that. This game is so much fun, so much replayability. You're going to be rolling dice. It's a pusher. It's definitely a push your luck game for sure, but it's also a race game, and you're racing these little cube characters around a racetrack, and you're rolling dice, so that way you can get the feet that will move your little, racer around, right? And so you're going to want to roll and get as much of the rolled dice into a hit that gives you the best stuff. So you can purchase more dice, better dice that you start with, and all that jazz. There are like so many different colors of dice in this game that you can purchase, and each colored dice is dependent on the card that you choose for the game for that color. And there's like maybe 7 different cards for each color, so tons of replayability. It may not be the same exact ability every game. This particular dice, this game might give you money, but the next time you play with it, it might give you feet instead of money, for instance. So there's just so much to do. It's so much fun, super fun game. My only thing that I hated about this game was the game came with these cardboard boxes. I hated putting them together. They were a pain in the neck. What's worse, they originally were meant as a storage solution to put your dice cubes, your dice into, but they don't work. The dice fall right out. Hated that. So rather than complain about that further, I just went to Etsy and I purchased my own cube storage solution. Not only does this work as a place to put my dice, a nice place to put my dice, but it also works as a place to obviously put my dice when we're playing the game, and as well, as you can see. And there's even these little things on the top where you can put the card, so you don't have to put them on the table anymore. They can just be on this. So this does not come with the game, okay? But this has definitely improved my opinion of Cubitos. This is definitely one of the reasons why, definitely one of the many reasons why Cubitos is now my number 3 most favorite game. So that's, like I said, Cubitos, a push your luck, dice rolling, race game. Amazing game. Number 3. That's why it's my number 3. Okay. So, the next one on the list, and the one after that, were on my list last year. So nothing new under the sun, I guess you could say. So, but in case you didn't obviously watch my last year's video, my second favorite game from AEG is Cascadia. Now this is the expansion box, and I prefer the boxed art for the expansion, so I put everything in here. Now, Cascadia is really fun. It's definitely a family type game. It's easy to teach. My family enjoy playing this. I've played this many, many times over the years. It's definitely one of the reasons why it's my second favorite game. Obviously, it's really cool because you're going to try to want to score points based on different types of habitats, like prairies and mountains and rivers and stuff. But you're also going to be taking animals as well and placing them on some of those tiles, right? And they score depending on which scoring card you're playing with, like maybe pairs of bears. You can get 2 bears next to each other. You can score points for every pair of bears you have. And obviously they all score differently, and you can play with multiple different cards for a lot of variety, for sure. for sure. Some are definitely harder than others to master and obviously win with. But yeah, just so much replayability with this game. I absolutely love Cascadia. Now, this is the expansion for Cascadia, which I did end up getting, and it's an okay expansion. It definitely came in handy having it when I wanted to play with my entire family of 6 people, because it does allow you to play with 6 people if you have the expansion landmarks. So that was nice. That was nice. But, you know, it's not like the best expansion in the world. But still, it is my second favorite. Still my second favorite AEG game. An awesome, amazing game. Love animal theme. And obviously it's also from Flathead Games as well. But technically it's also from AEG as well. So it counts. Because it even has it on the box, after all. So that's Cascadia. What else can I say? I just really love this game. We could go on and on about this game, but yeah, I just love this game a lot. That's why it's my number 2. Cascadia Landmarks. Easy to teach, fun to teach, for sure. Definitely family game. Okay, my most favorite game, which was obviously on my list last year, still number 1, still my favorite, and that is Ecos, the First Continent. Now, in this game, you're building a continent, and you start off with a few tiles that make up the continent, and some ocean tiles too. This game is really fun. You will have a bag of stones that have symbols on them, or icons, and you draw one. And everyone simultaneously is going to put a cube on a card that has a matching icon of the stone that you just drew. And if you don't have that matching icon on any of your cards, or don't want to put a cube down, because maybe you don't have enough cubes or something like that, you can turn a dial, and you might be able to do something with the dial at some point. So you still can do something even if you don't have the symbol requirements, right, for a card. You can only put down 1 cube on a card, though. So even if you had 5 of that symbol, you can still do only one of them. But yeah, it's so much fun. Simultaneous play is awesome. You can play with 6 people, and it's not a very long game. It's a very short game, even with 6 people, because like I said, it's simultaneous play. But at some point, you're going to complete a card. You're going to cover it with cubes, and then you're going to call out Ecos, and you're going to get to do what the card says. Now, the card could be just about anything. One of the main things, though, it could potentially be is something that's going to let you place out an animal, or a tree, or a mountain, or a type of terrain habitat, you know, desert, or grassland, or river, obviously, or ocean, I should say. One of those. It could be any of them, all right? So you're going to get to do a variety of different things, which is going to be building up this continent, adding life to the continent, animals and things like that. Now, you might be placing out a particular species of animal. You might find yourself placing out a lot of gazelles, and you might be scoring a lot of points off of those gazelles because they score you a lot of points for having a lot of the same species together to score tons of points. You might even be moving them around the continent as well, scoring you even more points that way, based on what cards you have. So that's really fun. And then what's even funner is you might have the lion, and then that lion comes and he eats all of the gazelle. So your opponent might be placing out the gazelles for tons of points that way. But then another player over here, he's got the lion strategy, and he's sending his lions to eat all of the gazelle, scoring him tons of points. So many different things can happen in this game. You might have this one giant continent, okay, with river or ocean on one side of it or something. And then a card tells you to flip over those tiles and turn them into water, dividing the continent into 2 separate continents, basically, or 2 islands, if you will. There's just so many things that you can do in this game. It's so much fun. Now, it might hurt your feelings to see all those gazelle get eaten by the lion. But if you already scored tons of points on the gazelle anyways, it's not going to hurt you too much if all of them are gone. Unless you were planning on placing out, unless you had more cards that allowed you to place out more gazelle or something like that, maybe, perhaps. And then you might think twice about placing them out because they'll just get eaten by the lion, you know. And every animal has its own unique scoring options and its own unique abilities and things like that, almost, sort of like ability. Like, for instance, the leopard can only be placed if it's placed on a tree. The gorilla can only be placed if there's a mountain nearby. The rhino usually only scores you points if there's no animals adjacent to it. So solitary rhinos score you tons of points. So a player who has the rhino strategy might be tempted to place a rhino here and a rhino all the way over there, and as far as he can possibly go away from the other animals, to source tons of points that way. That's possible. A player might be scoring tons of points based on the amount of trees that there are, on the continent. He might score tons of points for groups of trees. There might be a group of trees here and a group of trees there, and he might score tons of points for that. So there's a variety of different ways you can score points in this game. It's so much fun, so much fun. Everyone is going to get to be Harbinger, because at some point you're going to draw a stone from the bag that's going to be a wild symbol. And when that happens, one of the things is you get to put a cube down on any symbol you want, but then all of those stones go back into the bag, and then that bag is handed to another player for them to be Harbinger, so that they can take out the bad stones out of the bag. It's just so much fun. That's why Ecos the First Continent is still my number one, still my most favorite game. And that's it. That's my top 10 most favorite AEG games. So I hope you guys liked this video, and I'll see you guys again next time. Man, my voice just wants to keep disappearing. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye.